This is Macro Analytics, delivering frank conversations on global macroeconomics and market analysis, outside the mainstream, featuring discussions and debates between Gordon T. Long, publisher and editor of GordonTLong.com, and his guests. The content of this discussion is strictly the opinion of the participants. It is in no way a solicitation for business, nor is it to be considered investment advice of any sort. Always consult a registered investment advisor before making any investment decision. These discussions are extremely hard-hitting and terribly frank, and parental discretion is advised. Now, on to the show.
Good morning. I'm Gord Long with GordonTLong.com, and I have with me this morning Tys Andros. Ty is the president of TraderView, publisher of the TEDbits website, and writer and editor of his well-recognized newsletter, also named TEDbits. Ty, picking up, we were just bridging from money velocity and degree of printing, and I wanted to shift gears to Italy, because you wrote an excellent paper here a while ago that said the crisis was in Spain, and this one is a follow-on to that, saying it's now in Italy, and you have some great charts that really demonstrate the degree at which the problem is now in Italy. Comments?
Well, that article you spoke about was back in April, and, I said that Spain was done and that we were just waiting for the announcements and that there was no recovery that would ever materialize. And, of course, we're at that point. But now Italy has joined them in the lion's den. And Italy is in a full-throated depression. They have destroyed all hope. Their banking system is gone. There is an implosion in credit there and the availability of credit. And obviously, we live in a credit-based society. So if there's no credit, then you're in a crash. And Italy's crashing now. Their economy's crashing. Year over year, growth is negative. And it's not going to turn around because we can sit here and look at these charts that came out of the New York Times, and it shows consumer confidence at below the lows in 1992. It shows people's general economic conditions, off literally 100% compared to levels just 2 years ago. Household financial system situation, retail sales, they're all on multi-decade lows, and they are just like they're just like Portugal, which was recently reported that all of the citizens have sold all of their personal gold to make ends meet over the last several years, and now they virtually are tapped out, and we're now seeing Italy in that same position. We have an unelected technocrat from the European Central Bank, and he's there doing the dirty work of bringing the final denouement down. And we're now waiting for Lord Rothschild to start agreeing to print money for them in exchange for them surrendering their sovereignty through a memorandum of understanding.
Mario Monti was chairman of the Trilateral Commission, a former professor who went up through the Brussels bureaucrat but has never been elected, and was clearly, as we talked about in a Global Insights show, actually the week he was appointed, and how that whole process was orchestrated. The points you make on Italy are so true. I have up here the Nielsen Global Consumer Sentiment, and you can see how bad Italy is compared to the rest of the world. But around the world, Ty, consumer sentiment is falling off. Concerns with jobs, employment by the populace, and spending is clearly there and is evident in Nielsen's absolutely outstanding work. And one of the charts you showed, the PMIs in your report, brought it through, and they just get worse and worse. And as we're recording this morning, China's just out, and it's even worse than your charts here are showing.
Oh, it's a global disaster, and either these jackbooted thugs and socialist leaders allow people to keep their wealth and quit trying to steal it and give it to their friends, or it's all lost. And Gord, I believe it's all lost. I don't believe, and this newsletter talks it, I don't believe these people can conceive of what they have to do to revive their economies. All they can do is conceive of how to do more of what has caused the collapse. And so they're piling on, and There's no end in sight. This is a global dictatorship going into place, especially in the developed world, in exchange for money from banksters that's printed out of thin air, who have, they're not giving you capital, they're giving you an IOU. And of course their IOUs are not well supported.
Ty, what's wrong with our educational system that it's not generating more leaders and people with the right kinds of perspective on what's wrong here? Like, some of the solutions are very, very evident, but they never get onto the policy agendas, at least in my opinion. And I've got to aim it right at the education, because even specifically the electorate themselves just haven't got a grasp of the problems.
Well, that's what happens when you have a government-controlled school system that gets to control the curriculum. I was lucky enough to go through the bulk of my teaching before the Department of Education was created in like 1979. And back then you had PTAs and parent-teacher organizations, and if the kids weren't being taught, they were within arm's length of the parents and they could grab them by the throat. But now all of it's run out of Washington and socialist teachers unions and people who really their bread is buttered on government guarantees and union activities and bringing along the welfare state and bringing along what I'll call useful idiots. And, Lenin, cultivated those for generations and set in stone the Soviet system. And ultimately the people forgot their roots. They were never taught where the wealth of the world came from. They weren't taught, to be dependent on themselves and self-reliant, because there's one thing government hates. It's somebody that doesn't rely on them, because that man is a free man. And they don't want free men. They want sheeple so that they can take advantage of the sheeple and, put it in their own pockets. And, it's an epidemic, but, if you want to know what happened to the school system was taken over by the federal government, when the Department of Education was created. And ever since then, it's, just like the post office, or even worse. But, you can see government, is there anything that government does better? I would say no. I believe that, Medicare and Medicaid, was a stealth takeover of the healthcare system. And what it's done is it's priced all the regular people out. Because when the government's on the bid, there's no responsibility to spend your money wisely. In fact, somebody else is paying for it, so who cares? And now the bills are due, and the piper's got to be paid, and before it's over, it's going to be chaos.
One of the things I've seen from an educational standpoint has been how we practice what I'll refer to as revisionist history in America, and that is we go back and we rewrite our history books with a different slant or a different orientation. And they're very political in the views. And the one that I'm seeing right now is we're repositioning the Federal Reserve, and that the Federal Reserve, as we know, was created in 1913. But in fact, the way the books are now are being put out, it's though the Federal Reserve is a constitutional approach by the country that's central to the whole formation of the Republic, which couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, as you well know, the Federal Reserve is a monetary monopoly granted by government in exchange for unlimited funding. The economy is run for the benefit of the banks. We don't have banks that are there to serve the real economy. We've now financialized everything. It's all, what new way can we devise to fleece the public rather than properly grease the skills, the allocation of capital to where it can produce the most for the less. I mean, people are just flat out ignorant. I mean, they've removed history and social studies of the United States before 1910. What's wrong with this picture? I went to social studies and learned why the Constitution was important and why it needed to be adhered to so that we couldn't have raving mobs taking advantage of individuals. And of course, it's all there now. We have something for nothing societies, and they're searching for something for nothing, and they're like locusts. And they're just eating everything right down to the roots, and they think they're entitled to it. They've been taught all their lives that they're going to be taken care of, and they can plan on these things. I mean, how much of the insolvencies today, Gord, are a result of defined benefit pension schemes? Defined benefit pension schemes that have bankrupted every company that had them. And defined benefit schemes that every assumption of return is false. They may be able to make the kind of money they're assuming, but not if you hand it to your political crony who has no expertise in how to generate and invest for wealth creation. These people are just generating. They're buying into windmills. They're buying into electricity, the sources of electricity generation that have no chance in hell of making any money if the government withdrew support.
Ty, right now we have very few bankruptcies occurring, but if in fact we were to look at unfunded pensions by both the private and the public sector, but I'll talk to first with the private sector, corporations, if they actually had to be fully solvent, we'd find one bankruptcy after another because they're in many, many cases 50% underfunded. Probably think the average is up closer to 60 or 70. But even then it's based on actuarials of an 8% return, and they're not even getting anywhere near that right now. And that's a fact. So there's a massive adjustment has to go. It's the same thing in the public. So just faulty beliefs here. Never mind whether they in fact do support a defined benefits program.
Well, I was just reading about Illinois tollway retirees and people who paid in $65,000 and have received $1,299,000 worth of pension payments, and they're not even close to death. Or another guy who put in $49,000 has gotten $1,212,000 out. Another guy who put in $118,000. His total pension to date is $102,833. Man, I wish I could get those kind of returns on my investments.
Ty, I live in a small town. Big argument going on about what we're paying the chief of police and what we're paying the fire chief. But the bigger argument is, and as somebody so clearly pointed out, I as much as those are outrageous, he says, why do we have 3 chief of police and 2 fire chiefs? And the answer is because one of the police chiefs is working, the other 2 are retired at almost full coverage, and the same with the fire chief, about to see another one retire because they retire at young age. So a little town like this, how do we employ 5 chiefs? But that's what we're doing, and that's what's going on right across the landscape, and none of them were funded, Ty. None of them were funded.
Well, they are funded, Gord. They're funded with the future earnings of our children.
Precisely. And the children today, Ty, are starting to rebel on that. And I've got up a recent study here showing the degree of which the youth is now pushing back in America. It is just stunning. They are now they're really frustrated because they don't see the opportunities with the student debt that they're carrying, no job. They're having to move back with their parents. John Rubino and I spent a fair bit of time laying this out, but it's a study. I have a study we didn't have at the time, and here it is. These numbers are very, very clear. So we're going to see more social unrest looming in an accelerated fashion over the next 18 months, in my opinion.
How wonderful. This is the only solution to the problem.
Exactly, Ty. I echo your point. Congratulations. Are people finally waking up? But I was encouraged.
It's going to be an ugly morning. And, it's only beginning, Gord. You know that. The destruction of the people's belief in, the future is just beginning. And, we know where we're headed because they've militarized all of the government agencies. They've all bought enough bullets to kill all of us 5 or 6 times over, and they're all hollow points. They know it's coming, and they're already in position. All the laws have been passed, as you know, to turn the United States into a type of a gulag.
Ty, last slide here before we wrap this session from your article showing the VIX, the Standard & Poor's 500. Comments?
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it looks like Mr. Obama, unless the plunge protection team and the president's and the high frequency traders get behind him, is going to have a dose of McCain's medicine in 2008, where there was a crash right into the election. And either the manipulators get going, or we could see some really ugly activity in the stock market right into the election. And I'm actually praying for that. And I despise I don't know who he is. I don't think anybody knows who he is, but he's a socialist in chief, and I really don't want the denouement to come faster. I want the denouement to come slower, so that I can better position myself and get ready for the chaos and the terrible things that are in our future.
In the meantime, and even then, there's tremendous opportunities for those who see what's coming and prepare and actually do something about it. And right now we have the time to prepare. Ty, we need to break here. Is there any last comments that you'd like to make? And also, could you tell our listeners the kinds of things that you do that will allow them to protect themselves for the future, the work that you are actually, I would say, a world-class specialist on?
Well, that's what Tidbits is, and that's what my commentary is really, I'll call it as a pamphleteer, and tell you that the British are coming. Prepare yourselves. And what I do is I help people put their portfolios into a structure that can meet these challenges and turn them into an opportunity. And some of the things that I do is I repair their paper currencies, so they become far more resistant to printing presses. And I'm a manager of managers and an asset allocator, and I help them put together relationships with professionals who are uniquely prepared to make money when markets are going up or when markets are going down, and can bring, they are experts at putting you into opportunities within split seconds of low risk entries, and then professionally managing the risk. And between the two, it's a robust absolute return alternative investment. And so that we can, there's some great opportunities. There's going to be the best buying opportunity in stocks ever, in my opinion, before it's over. But, we're going to see the S&P probably cut by 75%, just like we saw the NASDAQ cut by 75% or more. And I know you share my beliefs, Gord, that those March 2009 lows will fall.
Yes, they will. Definitely in real terms. And the best I'll concede is we will have a bounce at those lows in nominal terms.
I actually believe we're going to go through there because...
as I said, the minimum I would suggest.
Because I believe most of the baby boomers are not going to get out of the market with their wealth. There is no wave of new wealth coming along behind them to take their Ponzi assets off them. They're overpriced assets. And we're going to be doing, special on mispricing. But, those assets are highly leveraged, even if they paid them off, because the guy next to him is working on leverage. And, we're going to see, they're going to lose all their real estate wealth and their bond wealth and their stock wealth. There just is not enough buyers out there to take all this, I'll call it, illusionary wealth off their hands. But it's a huge opportunity, as you well know. But you got to be good. I actually believe I am.
Till meet again, good luck.
Good luck, and God bless you all.
This has been Gordon T. Long, editor and publisher of GordonTLong.com. New recordings are posted regularly and can be found at GordonTLong.com. New show notifications are available through RSS feed, iTunes, and other social networking venues at GordonTLong.com.